Coming up next here on the Metal Command podcast, the Kings of Thrash have released their first single. Burton C. Bell, former Fear Factory singer, releases a single. Iron Maiden has begun the Run for Your Lives tour and does not want you using cell phones. And I talk about how bands can help promote themselves better and how PR people can better promote their clients. All of that coming up next here on the Metal Command podcast.
You are listening to the Metal Command podcast.
Greetings and welcome back to another edition of the Metal Command podcast. Tony here with you. Again, as always, I'm always excited to see everybody today. And if you do want to support the show and you want to support the podcast and you like what you see and hear on this show, by all means, hit that subscribe button, like this video, hit that little bell to be notified anytime I do post any kind of content. And if you follow this show on any other form of social media or streaming service, hit the like and or follow button there. Have a lot to get to. As always, Iron Maiden, of course, has begun their Run for Your Lives tour. The set list, for whatever reason, has pissed some people off. And on top of it, they have, they've started playing shows with their new drummer, which I'll get into as well. And they don't want people using cell phones at their shows. So I have a lot of thoughts on that. We have a new single by Burton C. Bell, former Fear Factory singer, one of my favorite vocalists, and it's a song called Savages. I will give you my thoughts on that. I'm going to talk about how bands can better promote themselves and how PR people can help better promote their clients and gain attention from people like myself and other media people out there. But first, let me get into the topic that is being talked about quite a bit here on social media, and that is the Kings of Thrash song, the new single on their upcoming album, off of their upcoming album that they are going to be putting out. It's called Lockdown. And I've listened to this song a few times, and this song has had a lot of negative comments directed towards it. So for those that don't know what Kings of Thrash actually is, it was a band playing Megadeth covers. You have Jeff Young, the former guitar player from Megadeth, played on one album, So Far So Good So What. Obviously, we know who David Ellefson is, and he's been out of Megadeth for quite some time now. And obviously, he is in this band. And those two guys started this band. They were basically playing Megadeth covers for the most part. This song called Lockdown also features a guest guitar player in Chris Poland, who obviously played on the first two Megadeth albums. And the song has garnered some negative criticism, quite a bit actually. And after listening to it, I'm agreeing with the criticism. Actually, I'm really very disappointed in this song. I'm not like angry about it. Like some people are like pissed off thinking it sucks and you see all these comments about it. But I think the song is very disappointing for a number of reasons. And it also highlights something else for me. The fact that just because you are very good at playing your instrument and you are very proficient at it, and you've been proficient at playing your instrument for a very, very long time, because you are talented in that aspect, it does not mean you are a great songwriter. And vice versa. There are great songwriters who are not great instrumentalists compared to other people in the band that they are in. That's just a fact of life in the music world. And when I say this about this track, Lockdown, this is not an indictment on the ability these guys have to play their instruments. I think David Ellefson's an exceptional bass player. He has played in a lot of great projects, since being out of Megadeth. Jeff Young is an exceptional guitar player. So is Chris Poland. In fact, you're not getting into Megadeth unless you are a talented player. Let's just put it that way. So this has nothing to do with their playing ability. These guys are obviously professionals. They've been doing this for a very, very long time. And as far as playing their instruments, they are exceptional at doing that. What they are not exceptional at doing is writing great songs. I think that this song itself, the production, I don't think sounds great. I don't think it's well written. I'm not a fan of the vocals on the track. And it's actually a disappointment. And I'm going to explain to you why it is a disappointment to myself. I don't know the resume of Chris Poland and Jeff Young. I really don't know what they've really done since leaving Megadeth. I don't know. Okay. They're both good guitar players. But I'm going to highlight some of the things David Ellefson has done. And David Ellefson was a very nice guy when he came on my show. I enjoyed speaking to the guy. I have nothing but good things to say about the dude, as far as him as a person and actually speaking to him. But let me go down the list of projects that he's done that, in my opinion, are a lot better than this. And it'll illustrate why I'm so disappointed. So David Ellefson has taken, he's been in some bands and projects in between his stints with Megadeth. And I'm going to list them out, at least some of them. He was in a band, Ellefson Soto. If you haven't heard that album, there was an album with him and Jeff Scott Soto. If you haven't heard that, I think that's one of the most incredible records I've ever heard. I was shocked at how good that album was and how many times I would listen to it. So you have that project. He was part of Metal Allegiance, and I'm talking David Ellefson here. Metal Allegiance is an incredible project. Lots of great names in there, and the music, I thought, was exceptional. David Ellefson was, after Megadeth had broken up, like in the early 2000s, he was in a band called F5. I don't know if you all remember that. Had a couple records come out. Believe it or not, I thought that band was pretty solid and pretty good. At the time, I mean, it wasn't anything groundbreaking, but I went back and revisited those two albums that I have, and I think that band was actually pretty solid. He's in a band called The Lucid. No, not really quite the same as like playing in Megadeth or some of the heavy metal bands Dave has played in, but I think for the music they wrote, pretty solid. A band called Death, a little bit heavier. Not that band's style of music really is not my thing, but for that type of heavy metal, I think that band sounds exceptional. So you have all of these really cool projects and bands this guy has been in, and then they put out this song, which has garnered a lot of negative reaction. The fact, the disappointing thing about it is that I just listed off a lot of great bands Dave has been in, David Ellefson. Then, of course, you have Megadeth. It's a letdown. I can't, when I listened to this and I thought back about all of the stuff David Ellefson has done and how much better everything he has done in the past, and I believe some of these bands he's still doing stuff with them, it's a big disappointment. It really is. It also explains to people why these guys were not really the main songwriters of Megadeth. Again, you can be a very proficient player on your instrument. It does not equate to great songwriting. And on top of that, guys that have been in bands like that, you would figure they could do better than this. Because when I listened to the song, you know what the first thing I thought of was? Aside from the fact I didn't think it was very good. I thought, man, these guys could do so much better, especially David Ellefson, who's been in some really exceptional projects. I mean, some of you may not know any of those projects. Some of you may not like them. I personally like most of what the guy has done when he hasn't been in Megadeth. I really have. And I've always said, and I think I said this in the interview I did with him a couple years ago, I said, look, I think it's great that he's not in Megadeth anymore because he can explore these other musical avenues. The Lucid, for example, is really nothing like anything he's really done, right? And I think that band's pretty good, to be honest. That Ellefson Soto album really hit home with me. I still listen to that every once in a while. It's really that good of a record. Now, some of that has to do with Jeff Scott Soto being a great vocalist, but the songwriting is great. The songwriting in Metal Allegiance, I think, is great. The songwriting in Dieth in the Lucid, the songwriting in these bands is great. I think the F5 band was decent for what it was. And then we hear this. I respect the fact that these guys are great players. But look, folks, I'm going to be honest with you, as I always am. I'm going to call balls and strikes, as we say here in America. I'm going to call things for what they are. I really don't think the song is that great. Is it as bad as the Dark Angel single that came out? Absolutely not. But I'll be honest with you, I'm a little bit disappointed in this track. Now, let me state something here. The scary part about this is that they have an album coming out and that this is the first thing these guys wanted us to hear. But at the same time, I do not judge an album by the single. I'm going to beat a dead horse here. I've always said record labels and bands, especially nowadays, seem to pick some of the worst songs on their album. So the album might actually be a lot better than this song, or it might be worse. We don't know. Not a fan of the production, but good songwriting can typically override production for me. That's my personal opinion and preference. We shall see. Because the verdict is still out. I'm not going to judge an album until I actually hear the entire thing. But from what I'm listening to on this song, it does not sound promising whatsoever. At all. So we'll see where this Kings of Thrash thing goes. We will see where this album goes when it comes out. Obviously, I'll hear a promo of it at some point, but it ain't looking good, folks. I'll be honest with you. And comparing, let's take Megadeth out of the equation. Looking at all of the other projects David Ellefson has done and been a part of, this is by far, in my opinion, the worst thing I've ever heard from him. And it's probably one of the only bad things that I thought, it's one of the only things he's ever done, in my opinion, that I haven't liked. Everything else, even if it's not my style of music, you're like, okay, yeah, it's not bad. This is kind of like, not good. And I've brought up bands with former members of bands or current members of bands. Most of the time, these projects aren't great. Every once in a while, they are good. This is definitely not. So that's my opinion. I'm curious as to what all of you think about this Kings of Thrash song called Lockdown. You can post your comments, whether you agree or disagree with me. That's fine. I'm curious as to what you like or dislike about this song. Because for me, mainly, it's the songwriting and the production. I mean, it's really that simple. Not a big fan of the vocals, but, if the song was a little bit better and if the production sounded better, the vocals could be passable. But needless to say, I'm disappointed. Hey everybody, Tony here from the Metal Command podcast. Again, I appreciate your support. Since 1998, I have hosted this show in one form or another, starting off in radio and now in the podcast format. Again, thanks for watching, and if you like what you see and hear on this show, by all means, please hit the subscribe button, hit the little bell to be notified anytime I do post a video, and if you see this program on any other form of social media, please give me a follow there. Again, I always appreciate your support.